Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Dave looked at himself, barely recognizing the person looking back. Long auburn hair cascaded over slim shoulders, framing delicate features accentuated with subtle makeup. A floral print sundress hugged curves he never knew he had. For the first time, the face in the mirror matched how he felt inside. It had started simply enough. Underwear and a bra under his work clothes, nail polish in a neutral shade. Little thrills of excitement knowing his secret as he went about his day. Gradually, he accumulated a small wardrobe. Dresses, skirts, blouses, heels. On weekends, he would dress up fully, savoring the intoxicating rush of femininity, the way the fabrics draped and swished against smooth legs. Venturing out, no one gave him a second glance. They just saw an ordinary pretty girl. The anonymity was liberating. At work on Monday, Dave was distracted, mind still lingering on the blissful weekend. Arriving almost late, he hastily threw on slacks and a button-down, not noticing the thin silver anklet still encircling his leg until he was already on the subway. Panic rose in his throat. What if someone saw? He tugged his pant legs down and prayed no one would notice. "Morning, Dave!" Jess, his coworker, greeted him cheerfully as he slid into his cubicle. They often took coffee breaks together, and Jess never failed to brighten his day with her irreverent jokes and sunny smile. As the morning wore on, Dave almost managed to forget about the anklet, until Jess unexpectedly popped by his desk. "Hey, want to grab lunch?" she asked. "I know a great new falafel place nearby." "Sure, sounds good," Dave replied, hastily minimizing his browser window and standing up. As he did, his pant leg rode up, exposing a flash of silver around his ankle. Jess's eyes widened slightly, and Dave's heart stopped. But she said nothing, just smiled and gestured for him to lead the way. As they walked to the elevator, he could feel her gaze flicking down to his ankle. His face flushed hot. In the elevator, Jess cleared her throat. "So, nice anklet," she said lightly. "Very cute. Where'd you get it?" Dave stammered, at a loss for words. I noticed your toenails a few weeks ago. The understated peach was a great color on you, by the way." Dave's mouth fell open. She had noticed? And wasn't mocking him? Was it because she liked girls too? He stared at her, stunned. Jess smiled softly. "Hey, it's okay. I get it. Sometimes you just want to feel pretty, you know? I won't tell anyone." She squeezed his arm reassuringly. Relief crashed through him, and to his horror, Dave felt tears pricking at his eyes. He blinked rapidly, trying to regain composure as they exited into the lobby. As they waited in line for falafel, Jess turned to him. "You know, my friend Molly performs with this incredible drag troupe. I've seen their shows a few times. It's amazing what those queens can do with makeup and costuming. You might really enjoy it." "Oh, I don't know." Dave demurred, flustered. Cross-dressing in public? With other people around? The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. "Hey, no pressure. I'm going to their next show this Saturday. You're welcome to join if you want. You'd fit right in." Her eyes sparkled with warmth and acceptance. Dave's heart pounded as he considered it. He had never talked about his cross-dressing with anyone before, only ever savored it in private. But Jess made it sound so normal, even exciting. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. He took a deep breath. "Okay, I'm in." Jess beamed. "Fabulous! I can't wait to introduce you to all my friends. They'll adore meeting a new sister. What's your female name? I like Danny. You like that too? We always get dinner and drinks beforehand to get all dolled up together if you want to join for that part too." As Jess chattered happily about sequins and false eyelashes, a knot of nervous excitement twisted in Dave's stomach. What was he getting himself into? So many questions. Danny sounds nice. But a small voice inside him whispered that maybe, finally, he could stop holding part of himself back. Let his real self shine. The rest of the week dragged by in a haze of anticipation and anxiety. Dave must have tried on every outfit in his closet a dozen times, suddenly paralyzed with indecision. Finally, he settled on an understated but elegant black wrap dress with kitten heels, classic, with just a hint of sultriness. He packed and repacked his makeup bag, second-guessing every choice. On Saturday, he almost talked himself out of going 100 times. But the thought of disappointing Jess, of retreating back into the lonely safety of his anonymous weekends, made his throat tighten. With shaking hands, he finished his makeup, fluffed his hair, and squared his shoulders. He could do this. Heart in his throat, he knocked on the address Jess had given him. The door swung open to reveal the most gorgeous woman he had ever seen, all dramatic eye makeup and gravity-defying curls barely contained under a silk scarf. "You must be Jess's friend. Danny, was it?" the vision asked. "I'm Maya, welcome." She air-kissed him on both cheeks, ushering him into the cozy, brightly lit apartment, already buzzing with chatter and laughter. "Danny, you're here!" Jess pulled him into a warm hug. "Everyone, this is Danny! Danny, this is everyone!" She laughed. "There's food and drinks in the kitchen, just dive in and make yourself at home." Dave felt himself start to relax as he nibbled on snacks and sipped a glass of wine, listening to the easy banter flow around him. No one batted an eye at his dress or heels. In fact, he quickly found himself embroiled in an impassioned debate about liquid eyeliner brands with two bubbly queens named Crystal and Jade. Before long, Maya announced it was time to head to the venue. Dave wobbled a bit on the unfamiliar heels as he followed the chattering group out to the sidewalk. Jess steadied him with a hand on his elbow. "You're doing great," she murmured. "Are you nervous?" "Petrified," Dave admitted with a shaky laugh. "I've never done anything like this before." "You'll be fine. It's a really welcoming crowd. And you look amazing, by the way. That dress is perfect on you." Dave felt himself flush with pleasure at the compliment. As they continued walking and talking, he marveled at how natural it felt to be Danny. Like a jigsaw puzzle piece he hadn't even known was missing sliding into place. The heels, the hair, the swish of fabric against his legs, none of it felt foreign. It just felt right, like coming home. Arriving at the venue, a thrill tingled down Dave's spine as he followed the fabulously outfitted crowd inside to a world of pulsing music, glittering costumes, raucous laughter, and applause. A few curious glances slid his way as Jess led him to a cozy booth with a clear view of the stage, but there was no judgment in their eyes, only warm, knowing smiles. Like they recognized a kindred spirit finding her wings. As the lights dimmed and the music swelled, a statuesque figure took the stage in a whirl of sequins and feathers, her voice rising in a playful, teasing intro that instantly ensnared the crowd. Dave watched, utterly entranced, as each queen took their turn on the stage with jaw-dropping dance numbers, spirited lip syncs, and ribald comedy routines that left his cheeks aching from laughter and eyes sparkling with joyful tears. In that darkened, pulsing room surrounded by riotous applause and whoops of delight, something cracked open inside him. A knot of fear and shame and secrecy he had carried for so long without even being fully aware of its weight. He felt seen in a way he never had before. Understood. Celebrated. Turning to Jess, he saw the same emotions shimmering in her eyes. "Thank you," he whispered, throat tight, "for bringing me here. Showing me it's okay to be me." She squeezed his hand. "There was never anything wrong with you. I hope you know that now. You're perfect exactly as you are." The words sank into his marrow like a benediction. Gazing around the room at the sea of beaming faces cheering their brethren on the stage, Dave felt something slot into place. These were his people. Here he wasn't pretending, wasn't putting on a facade. He was Danny, vibrant, brave, and whole. When the show ended in a raucous standing ovation, Dave found himself swept into the throng heading backstage to thank the performers. To his shock, more than a few pulled him into exuberant hugs, raving about his ensemble and welcoming fresh meat into the sisterhood. He laughed until he was breathless, cheeks aching from smiling so much. "So," Jess asked as they finally spilled out into the crisp night air, ears still ringing. "How was your first time out as a girl?" Dave considered the question, inhaling lungfuls of brisk air to clear the happy buzzing in his head. "Honestly, it was the first time I felt free. Like I didn't have to hide anymore. Getting to be Danny openly with other people, it was..." He shook his head, at a loss for words. "Liberating?" Jess offered softly. "Yeah, liberating." She smiled, linking her arm with his as they ambled down the sidewalk, the muted sounds of the city at night enveloping them. "I'm so glad. You know you never have to hide with me, right? At work, at play, wherever. I see you, all of you, and I happen to think you're pretty fantastic." Dave ducked his head, cheeks warming even as a grin tugged at his mouth. "Thanks, Jess. That means more than you know. What are friends for?" She hip-checked him playfully. "Now, a little birdie told me you absolutely slay at karaoke, and I happen to know an awesome spot nearby." Dave laughed, a bubble of pure joy expanding in his chest until he thought he might lift right off the ground. He tightened his grip on Jess's arm. "Lead the way. Danny is ready to party." As they walked arm in arm towards the karaoke bar, Jess glanced over at Dave, a pensive look flickering across her face. "You know, seeing you tonight, getting to witness you embrace this side of yourself so fully, it brought back a lot of memories for me." "Yeah." Dave locked his head, curious. "How so?" Jess exhaled slowly. "Coming out as a lesbian in college, it was really hard at first. I grew up in a small conservative town. Being gay wasn't even on most people's radar, let alone celebrated." She smiled wryly. "I spent so long trying to convince myself I was imagining things, that I couldn't possibly like girls because I had never seen that kind of relationship modeled. Never even knew it was an option." Dave made a small noise of recognition. He knew that feeling all too well. That suffocating uncertainty, the desperate attempts to jury-rig yourself into a mold you didn't fit. "What changed?" he asked softly. "I met someone. A girl in my freshman psych class." Jess's eyes went soft and distant with memory. "Her name was Erica. She was so confident, so unapologetically herself. And I couldn't deny my attraction anymore. Didn't want to." She huffed a small, self-deprecating laugh. "God, I was so awkward and nervous trying to flirt with her, but she was patient, kind. She helped me see there was nothing wrong with me for loving who I loved." Dave felt a lump rise in his throat, remembering his own paralyzing fear, the weight of carrying a secret identity. Sure that if anyone discovered the truth, they would recoil in disgust. "I'm really glad you had someone like that," he said roughly. "I can't imagine how lonely it must have been before." Jess squeezed his arm. "It was. I felt like I couldn't really connect with anyone because I was hiding such a huge part of myself. Building any kind of relationship on that shaky foundation, it felt impossible." She met his gaze, a flicker of hesitation in her hazel eyes. "When I saw you tonight, interacting so naturally as Danny, letting your true self shine, I realized how incredibly brave you are. And I realized..." She cleared her throat. "I realized how much I admire that about you, how much I like you, all of you." Dave's steps faltered, heart kick-starting into a gallop. Was Jess saying what he thought she was saying? "Jess, He swallowed hard. "I really like you too, as more than a friend. I have for a while, but with all this..." He gestured vaguely at his outfit, suddenly painfully aware of how he must look, neither fully male nor female. But Jess just smiled, reaching up to tuck an errant auburn curl behind his ear with infinite gentleness. "I know. And I want you to know, I like all of you, Dave. Male, female, somewhere in between. I'm attracted to the person you are, not the package you come in." Dave felt like his heart might burst. After a lifetime of feeling fractured, relegated to stolen moments of a hidden self, to have someone look at him and truly see him, accept him in his entirety, it defied words. Slowly, giving her plenty of time to pull away, Dave raised a tentative hand to cup Jess's cheek. Her skin was impossibly soft under his fingers. He heard her breath catch. "Is this okay?" he whispered. In answer, Jess slid her arms around his neck and guided his mouth down to hers. The first brush of her lips against his sent sparks skittering down Dave's spine. In that moment, the rest of the world fell away. The noise of the street, the curious glances of passers-by, even the thrumming bass of the music spilling out of the karaoke bar. There was only the heat of Jess's body against his, the silk of her hair under his hands, the sweet, insistent press of his mouth. When they finally broke apart, they were both flushed and breathless. Jess laughed shakily, pressing her forehead to his. "Wow," she murmured. Dave laughed, feeling lighter than he could ever remember feeling. Hand in hand, they made their way into the karaoke bar, stealing smiling glances at each other as they waited for their turn on stage. As Jess launched into a spirited rendition of Toxic, complete with shimmies and hair flips that had the whole bar whooping and cheering, Dave couldn't take his eyes off her. She was magnetic, radiant with unabashed joy and confidence. And somehow, miraculously, she had chosen him, wanted him, not despite his dual selves, but because of them. Jess pulled him up on stage for the final chorus, both of them belting out the lyrics in between bursts of giddy laughter. As the song ended, Jess dipped him into an exaggerated kiss that had the audience roaring their approval. Flushed and grinning, they took their bows and made their way off stage. "So, my place?" Jess murmured in his ear as they collected their things. "I'm not ready for this night to end yet." "Yeah," Dave agreed breathlessly. "Yeah, let's go." The cab ride to Jess's apartment seemed to take an eternity, the air between them crackling with anticipation. They held hands in the dark, sneaking glances and small, secret smiles. Over the next few weeks, they stole every private moment they could, both at Jess's apartment and Dave's. Movie nights cuddled on the couch, lazy Sunday brunches, evening walks hand in hand. Dave grew more comfortable going out as Danny, shedding his hesitation along with the layers of his male persona. It was intoxicating, experiencing the world through this new lens, this new context. Everything felt brighter, fuller, more authentic. Jess learned his different tells and rhythms, which days the angular cut of a suit felt most comfortable, which evenings he needed the sway of a skirt against his legs to feel at home in his skin. She talked him through YouTube makeup tutorials, steadying his hand on the eyeliner when his nerves got the best of him. On nights they stayed in, she would shyly ask if Danny wanted to come out and play, smiling in delight when Dave reemerged from the bedroom all done up, at ease in his femininity. The drag queens from their inaugural outing quickly became close friends, drawing Dave into their glittery, raucous fold without hesitation. Most Friday nights found him squeezed around a table at their favorite haunt, trading fashion tips and body jokes over fishbowl margaritas, Jess a warm, solid presence at his side as he soaked up their guidance and encouragement. At first, Dave did his best to keep his newfound confidence confined to his off-duty hours, not wanting to draw undue attention at work. But as the weeks passed and his comfort in his own skin grew, he found himself taking more risks. A subtle swipe of tinted lip balm, a few chunky rings stacked on his fingers, a scarf knotted just so at his throat. Nothing overt, but small tells for those who knew to look for them. If any of their coworkers noticed the shift in Dave's style or demeanor, they didn't comment on it directly. But he could feel the ripple of glances as he passed in the halls, like a stone tossed into still water. It made something prickle at the back of his neck, an old, familiar dread, the instinct to hide, to deflect. He did his best to shake it off. Their approval didn't matter, he reminded himself. What mattered was living authentically, refusing to carve himself up to satisfy some arbitrary standard. He had Jess, had his found family that celebrated him in all his forms. That was enough. But humans are keen observers and prone to idle chatter, and the office proved no exception. Whispers began to follow Dave and Jess as they arrived in the mornings, heads bent together over inside jokes and clinging remnants of sleepy affection. People noticed the matching coffee orders, the casual touches that lingered a beat too long to be merely friendly, the way they orbited each other like binary stars, an inescapable pull. "Do you think they're dating?" Maggie from HR asked slyly, eyes tracking the pair as they left for lunch, hand in hand. "No way," Joe from payroll scoffed. "Dave's not, he's a little, you know." Joe made a limp-wristed gesture. "Jess is probably just humoring him. Nobody actually dates that." Shame burned hot in Dave's cheeks as the words drifted over to their desk pod. He hunched his shoulders, sudden tears stinging his eyes. Jess caught his fingers under the desk and squeezed hard. "Ignore them," she whispered fiercely. "They don't know anything about us." But Dave could hear the tremor in her voice, see the tightness around her eyes. The gossip only intensified as the weeks passed. It seemed everywhere they went, speculative glances and raised eyebrows followed. Passing comments just loud enough to overhear, the edge of a sneer coloring each word. "I don't know who she thinks she's fooling with that one. Just a matter of time before the whole thing blows up. You wait and see." "Guess that's what happens when you get involved with a..." Dave balled his hands into fists under his desk, jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. Each barb struck home, burrowing under his skin like splinters, an unrelenting itch of shame and resentment. He could see how it wore on Jess, too, her bright spark dimming as the hostility hemmed them in on all sides. She jumped at loud noises, shoulders hunched like she expected a blow. He hated seeing her so diminished, her usual vibrant energy tamped down to a pale flicker. "I'm so sorry," he said lowly one evening as they hurried out of the building, desperate to escape the cloying judgment. "I never meant for my issues to make things harder for you, to drag you into all this ugliness." Jess stopped short, pulling him around to face her. Her eyes blazed with sudden, fierce intensity. "Danny!" His chosen name fell from her lips like a caress. "This is not your fault. The small-minded bigotry of assholes is not your fault." She took his face in her hands, voice gentling. "I love you, and I will never, ever regret showing the world how lucky I am to be with you." Dave folded her into his arms, burying his face in her hair as the knot in his chest loosened. "I love you too," he whispered. "So much." They stood like that a long moment, breathing each other in, drawing strength from the surety of their connection, even as the world seemed determined to tear them down. Finally, Jess pulled back, meeting his gaze with steely determination. "We can't let them get to us. Can't let them infect the beautiful thing we've built with their pettiness and hate." Dave nodded slowly, resolve settling in his bones. "You're right. What we have, it's too precious to let them taint it." He squared his shoulders. "We keep our heads high. We don't engage, don't defend. We just keep living our truth." A slow smile spread across Jess's face, pride and fierce affection warming her eyes. "Damn right we do." She threaded her fingers through his. "Now what do you say we go home and cuddle on the couch? I'm in desperate need of some Danny time." Laughter bubbled up in Dave's throat, bright and cleansing. "I think that can be arranged." Hand in hand, they made their way down the street, the curious glances and scandalized whispers fading into background noise. Let them look, Dave thought. Let them see how happy we are, how little their derision matters in the face of our love. Because at the end of the day, that was the only truth that mattered. Not the cutting words or cold shoulders, but the unshakable foundation of acceptance and affection he and Jess had built together. A shelter against any storm. Bring on the rumors, the backlash, the small-minded scorn. With Jess by his side, her hand warm in his, Dave knew they could weather anything and emerge all the stronger for it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.